Coming up on Retiring Well with Michael Reese.
So who's making money on who here? Is Bill making money on the IRS? No, it's the other way around. Good news, what can you do? Buy out your partner at any time. You can do Roth conversions. Get the IRS out of here, take your money, and then grow it so that 100% is yours. The IRS assesses a 50% penalty on you for not making your required distribution. And then you got to pull it out and pay income tax on the whole amount anyway.
Now, the host of Retiring Well, Michael Reese.
Welcome to the show today. We have 30 minutes of action-packed information specifically designed for you. Retiring Well starts right here, right now.
Retiring Well with Michael Reese, helping you make smart decisions with your money so you can live a better life. Today is the day you can take back control of your money. Retiring Well with Michael Reese, where we believe your best is yet to come.
This week on CFP Talk, I want to share with you a discussion that I have with folks about their IRAs or 401ks or even 403bs all the time. You see, one of the biggest mistakes that people make with their tax planning has to do with their IRAs. So let's look at an example of what I'm talking about. Let's imagine that I'm talking to someone whose name is, let's call him Bill. And Bill has a $500,000 IRA or a $500,000 401k, 403b, what have you. I'll just use IRA for our discussion today. So Bill comes to us and he shows us his statement. And in his IRA, here's what it says on the top. It's titled Bill's IRA. And then at the bottom, right there at the bottom of his statement, it says $500,000. And so the question is, does Bill have $500,000 in his IRA? Does he have $500,000? Well, let's think about this together. So let's imagine that Bill here decides he wants to go buy a house. Maybe he wants to buy a second home. And it costs exactly $500,000. So here's what he's thinking. He's thinking, well, hey, I've got $500,000 in my IRA. It says so right there on my statement. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cash out that IRA. I'm going to get my $500,000 and I'm going to use it to go buy that house. That's what I'm going to do. Well, if Bill does that, does he really get $500,000? Does he, when he cashes out that IRA, will he receive $500,000? Well, you know what the answer to that is. The answer is, of course, no, he will not. What will he get? Well, he'll probably get something closer to maybe $350,000, something like that. Well, wait a minute here. Where did the other $150,000 go? Well, this is what Bill gets. The other $150,000 over here, that went to the IRS. So when we look at this $500,000 IRA, is it really all Bill's? Can he get all that money if he wants it? Well, no, it's not. This is not all his money. He looks at that statement, he sees $500,000, it's not all his. See, if we were really being accurate about things, here's what this IRA would be titled. It would really be titled Bill and IRS's IRA. In other words, this IRA, it's kind of like Bill is in a business relationship. This IRA is like a business. Bill owns $350,000 of that business. The IRS owns $150,000. The IRS is like that silent partner. And I know what everybody says. I know what you've been taught. You've been taught that this is okay because as this IRA gets larger, as it gets bigger, well then, Bill's making money on the IRS's money, right? Bill's making money on their money. That's what you've been taught. Unfortunately, in a lot of cases, that's wrong, and here's why. Think about this relationship right now. Think about this. Right now, Bill is a 70% owner. The IRS is a 30% owner. What if this thing grows to $2 million over time due to Bill's hard work and investment smarts? What if it grows? At $2 million, because the tax code, the more money you have, the more you're taxed, now Bill only owns about 60%, and the IRS gets 40%. Who made money on who here? Who made money on who? What happens is the bigger your IRA gets, the bigger chunk, the bigger percentage the IRS gets. So who's making money on who here? Is Bill making money on the IRS? No, it's the other way around. Good news, what can you do? Buy out your partner at any time. You can do Roth conversions. Get the IRS out of here, take your money, and then grow it so that 100% is yours. This is something you really want to look at. Now, if you have any questions about this or anything else we talk about on the show, by all means, please give us a call. We'd love to talk to you.
It's your retirement. How will you live it? How will you be remembered?
Will you be able to take me on vacation?
Will you be there for my ball games?
Will you teach me your values? You'll be able to play with me. Oh, help me go to college.
How will I remember you?
Have the retirement you dream about. Contact us today.
Hi, I'm Michael Reese, and I'd like to invite you and a guest to a complimentary evening of food, fun, and information at our next upcoming financial event. At this event, we're going to talk about topics that affect your money and your retirement planning. Topics include the 3 critical steps that you absolutely need to take to enjoy a secure retirement. We take a look at volatility versus returns. Which is more important for you and your money? Taxes. Nobody likes them, but what are you doing about your biggest tax liability? We're going to talk about these topics and much more. I want you just to call the number on the screen, bring you and a guest. We're going to have a great time, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Remember, you only want to retire once. Let's make sure you do it right.
Welcome to True or False with Mike. Mike, I've got a couple of great questions for you this week. Are you ready?
I'm ready, Craig. Fire away.
All right, first, true or false? Most retirees and pre-retirees know the fees they're paying for their investments.
Oh, most know the fees? Is that what you're asking? All right. Obviously, that one is a big fat false, right? That is false as they come. It seems like almost nobody knows the fees that they're really paying. So, and folks, you're at home, you're watching this. I mean, think about it. Do you really know what you're paying in fees? I mean, every day people come in, they visit with us, and I'll bet, what percentage would you say people who even are close with what they're paying, if they had to guess?
I would say a lot of people think they know what they're paying, but they don't actually know the full story.
They think they know, but they don't know the whole story, right? So it's really common. They might come in and say, oh, I think I'm paying like 1% or something. I mean, we hear that a lot, right? But then, you do the research, and here's what happens, and here's what might be happening to you as well. Maybe you're in an account and you think you're paying 1% because that's what your advisor's charging you. That's what you see on the statement. Like a typical advisory fee is 1%. But then when you look at a list, here's a list of the different accounts that you have. You say, oh, look, I've got that mutual fund, this mutual fund, here's another mutual fund. Are those mutual funds free, Craig? No, there's more fees there, right? And here they are, they think they're paying 1%. At the end of the day, they're paying 2%, sometimes even 3%. That's crazy. And then if they have variable annuities on top of that, the fees can get to be outrageous. So do most people know what they're paying? No, obviously they don't. And folks, you know, if you're at home watching, you want to know what you're paying, pick up the phone, call us here at the office. We'd be happy to sit down, run an analysis, and help you better understand the fees that you are paying your advisors.
Very good. Next, most investors clearly understand the risk they have in their portfolios.
So true or false, most understand the risk. All right, so I think we're going to have to nail that one as another false this week, right? We've got 2 falses this week, 2 are false. Yeah, there's no, well, most people think they're taking one level of risk and they're taking a different level. Now, would it be fair to say, though, that there are people that come in, they know they're taking a lot of risk, right? They come in, they say, look, I know I'm kind of taking on more risk than I should. Is that fair to say? Do we get people like that? Yep. And normally it's because they're thinking, well, what are the alternatives? Because historically what people would do is they'd put some money in stocks, some money in bonds. The idea would be maybe 50-50. But the problem is on the bond side, number one, because of interest rates, they're not paying anything. And number two, they all know that if interest rates rise, bond values fall. So they're thinking, why do I want to have half my money in something where I get paid nothing and I'm going to lose money over time? And that makes sense. So what have they done? They've kind of shifted their portfolios. They're buying more dividend-paying stocks instead of bonds. Or and by the way, folks, this may be happening to you. You might say, I got a 50-50 portfolio. I mean, I guess it was yesterday. We had someone come in, they had a 50-50 portfolio, half stocks, half bonds. You would think that they're, you know, a little bit lower risk. But do you know that they were taking on as much risk as the market, you know, as if they had 100% of their money in the market? They only had half their money in the market, but their portfolio, according to Morningstar, was taking on as much risk as the market. Now, why? Because the part that was in bonds, you know what happened? You know what bond fund managers are doing these days? You know, they're saying, hey, we don't want to put our money and only earn 1 or 2%. Nobody will invest with us. So they're trying to get better returns. What do? Longer period bonds. They're going into junk bonds just to try to get better returns. But when you do longer period bonds and you're making them junk at the same time, it's like owning a stock. It has the same risk as a stock. So do most people know the risks they're taking? No, they don't. And folks, that's a problem. That can get you in retirement. So, you know, I want you to call us because we can help you identify exactly where you are.
That's great. And folks, remember, if you've got questions about the risk you're taking or the fees you're taking in your portfolio or a question on anything, always feel free to give us a call and we'll help get you figured out.
Hi, I'm Michael Reese, and I'd like to invite you and a guest to a complimentary evening of food, fun, and information at our next upcoming financial event. At this event, we're going to talk about topics that affect your money and your retirement planning. Topics include the 3 critical steps that you absolutely need to take to enjoy a secure retirement. We take a look at volatility versus returns. Which is more important for you and your money? Taxes. Nobody likes them, but what are you doing about your biggest tax liability? We're going to talk about these topics and much more. I want you just to call the number on the screen, bring you and a guest. We're going to have a great time, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Remember, you only want to retire once. Let's make sure you do it right. This week in IRA Focus, we are diving into the 3 things that you need to know about required minimum distributions. So when it comes to your IRAs or your 401ks, 403bs, 457s, simple IRAs, SEP IRAs, all of these qualified retirement plans, they all have what are called required minimum distributions. That means that when you reach a certain point in life, you must start taking money out even if you don't want to. You have to do it anyway. So let's talk about the 3 things that you need to know about these distributions. All right, number 1, the first thing you need to know, when do they begin? They begin when you hit the year in which you hit age 70 and a half. So here's what that means. Let's imagine that you were born from January 1 to June 30. So you're born in the first half of the year. Well, when do you hit 70 and a half? Well, you hit 70 and a half in the same year that you turned 70. So if you turned 70 March 15, you hit 70 and a half September 15. So the year in which you turn 70 is the same year you hit 70 and a half. Your first required distribution happens in that year. But what if you are born in August or September or something? You're born in the second half of the year. Well, then your required minimum distribution, when do you turn 70 and a half? Well, you'll turn 70 and a half in the following calendar year. That means your first distribution will come out when you turn, the year in which you turn actually age 71. Why do they do it that way? I don't know. I think it's stupid. I mean, come on. Why don't they just say, look, you turned 70 this year, you got to take your first distribution. That would be simple. That would be easy. But remember, this is the IRS at work, and nothing comes simple in that way. All right, so number 1 was the year in which you turn 70 and a half, that's when you start taking distributions. What's rule number 2, or most important thing number 2 you need to know about these IRAs and required distributions? Well, here it is. Number 2, every year you have to pull money out, and every year you have to pull out a little bit higher percentage. So here's what's kind of interesting. The way the IRS does this, and they do it, of course, in the dumbest way. What they do is they say, once you hit age 70 and a half, each year you look up on this table, we give you a divisor. So the divisor, it starts out at 27.4. So what you do is you say, you take your, let's say you have $100,000 in your IRA, you take $100,000, you divide it by 27.4. Why do they do that? Why don't they just tell you, hey, you got to pull out about 3.5% this year? 3.5%, oh, I get it. That's about $3,500. I get it. No, I've got to divide. I don't know about you, but I remember when I was in school, long division, oh, I hated it. Well, that's what the IRS wants you to do. They want you to divide. Well, then it's 27.4. What about the next year? The next year, the number might be 26.5. And the next year, 25.6, and then 24.7, and 23.8, 22.9, 22, and so on. Every year, the divisor gets smaller. Well, what does that really mean? It simply means that the percentage that you pull out is getting bigger. So every year, you have to pull out typically more and more and more. So again, if you want it or not, doesn't matter. You got to pull it out. And that brings us to number 3. This third thing you need to know about required distributions. What if you're stubborn, right? What if you're a stubborn person? You say, okay, I've done the math. I've got to pull 30 grand out of my IRA this year. But you know what? You don't need the money. You don't need it. Or maybe you only need a little bit of it, but you don't even need the 30 grand. You say, why in the world am I pulling 30 grand out? I don't need the money. I don't want the money. I'm just going to turn around and reinvest it anyway. Why do they make me pull it out? This is dumb. Hey, I feel your pain there. If you don't pull it out, now listen to this. If you don't pull it out, the IRS assesses a 50% penalty on you for not making your required distribution. And then you got to pull it out and pay income tax on the whole amount anyway. So you put 30 grand, 50% penalty, that's $15,000. Plus, you're going to owe tax on it, maybe $7,500. Before you know it, 75% of your IRA distribution goes to taxes because you were stubborn. Make sure you pull it out. So there you are, 3 things. Start at age 70 and a half. Number 2, it increases every year. Number 3, big penalties if you don't pull it out. So folks, if you have questions about this or anything else we talk about on this show, by all means, please feel free to give us a call.
When you have confidence in your retirement future, you can live the life you've always imagined. Because of planning, you now have time to reflect on the wonderful memories of your life. You and your spouse finally have the luxury of leisure time together. To spend fun times with your grandkids, sharing the joy of their excitement about life. Smiling at the thought of quality time with your children and of picking up the check. At last, you have time to breathe and rekindle the love of your life. Why? Because you imagined what could be. You planned for retirement. So today, you own your future.
One of the biggest mistakes we see people making all the time when they come to our office is they don't have a clearly defined retirement plan. And the reason's pretty simple. It's pretty rare that someone like yourself has the opportunity to sit down with an independent financial advisor who truly specializes in retirement planning. Someone that makes sure that you can get through retirement safely and securely. Well, if you don't have a clearly defined retirement plan and you want one, well, all you have to do is give us a call. We have a special offer for the first 5 people that call. As long as you have at least $250,000 saved for your retirement, we will provide for you, free of charge, no obligation, a complete retirement review. In this review, we're going to help you take a look at your investments and the risk you're taking, the fees you pay in your portfolio, maybe even some tax planning. Will help you have an integrated, clearly defined retirement plan. Free, no obligation, be one of the first 5 callers. Make sure you call now. We'll see you when you stop in.
It's your retirement. How will you live it? How will you be remembered?
Will you be able to take me on vacation?
Will you be there for my ball games?
Will you teach me your values? You'll be able to play with me. Oh, help me go to college.
How will I remember you?
Have the retirement you dream about. Contact us today.
Welcome to this week's edition of Coffee Talk with Mike. My name's James Curry. We've got some great questions for you this week, Mike. Everyone has a lot to ask about ETFs.
Ooh, that's a good topic. I'm looking forward to it.
So our first question is from Carla from Cedar Park, and she asks, I keep hearing about ETFs. What exactly is an ETF?
So that's a really good question because first, ETF, of course, stands for Exchange Traded Fund. So this is what I like to almost call mutual funds 2.0. They are the newer version. And the idea is that if you think about Vanguard, a lot of people are familiar with Vanguard. Vanguard has index funds. So you might have an S&P 500 index fund at Vanguard. And the idea behind that mutual fund is that it would capture essentially the performance of that particular part of the market. The S&P 500, the 500 largest companies in the stock market. So the Vanguard S&P 500, they try to just duplicate what those 500 companies do. What an exchange traded fund does, on the other hand, is it goes a step further and it actually goes out and buys each one of those 500 companies in exactly the correct percentage, so that it can more exactly capture the market. It's more transparent. It just makes it a lot easier to capture part of a market. It might be large companies or small companies, U.S., international, might be stocks, bonds, it might be real estate, whatever it is. There's even an ETF, I think, for gold and silver. So the idea is to capture part of the market, but do it very cleanly and very efficiently. So essentially, that's what an exchange trade fund is, kind of a newer version of a mutual fund.
Excellent. Next question is from Gordon in Steiner Ranch, and he asks, how do ETFs differ from mutual funds?
Yeah, now that's another great question. I mean, because that's, folks, I mean, you may be sitting at home thinking that exact same thing. How are they different? So if exchange traded funds are trying to just be a cleaner version, you know, what the heck is the difference?
Right.
And I think that it's the biggest difference that I would attribute it to is that mutual funds, great tools when they came out. They gave people a way to diversify without having a lot of money maybe. You could put $50 a month into mutual funds and have a diversified approach all in one place. The problem though is that mutual funds, you never know what you own in there and you never know what you pay. They are not transparent. Everything's kind of hidden in that fund. So you don't really know anything. And as an investment advisor, that of course drives us crazy. The other problem with mutual funds is you can only buy or sell them at the end of the day. So you don't know, when you make a decision to invest in a mutual fund, you don't know the price you're investing at. You have to wait till the end of the day before your money gets invested. And the same when you sell. You don't know the price you sell. So we don't know what we pay to buy, we don't know what we pay to sell. That causes some problems. And then of course you have tax consequences. And I don't know, folks, have you ever had a mutual fund where you lost money, but then you still owed tax? Have you ever had that happen? That's just crazy. So what an exchange traded fund does is it takes all those negatives and it gets rid of them. So we know exchange traded fund, we know what we own and we know what we pay. They're transparent. We see everything. Further, they're very tax efficient. You never have to worry about those taxes. You know when you sell them, and you know when you sell them, that's when you'll pay tax. But you don't pay tax for the most part. You don't get any surprises. And of course, with an exchange traded fund, you can buy it throughout the day. So you know the price that you buy it at, you know the price that you sell it at. So you buy and sell it like a stock. In fact, gosh, if you wanted to, for those of you at home, you could even short an exchange traded fund. Like you short a stock, you can't do that with a mutual fund. So I would say it's like, you know, mutual fund 2.0.
Right.
They've just gotten better. Take a mutual fund, get rid of all the bad stuff, but keep the good stuff. That's an exchange traded fund.
And do it a lot less expensively,
yeah,
too.
do it a lot cheaper. Very good.
Well, excellent. Well, if you have any questions at home, please feel free to call the office or visit our website, and we can answer your questions next week.
Thanks everyone for watching the show today. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to call our office or visit our website. And remember, you only retire once. So let's get it right the first time. We'll see you next week.